I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been 9 or 10 days since the election, and we've been almost entirely Obama-free, and I can't take him anymore. I'm redesigning just about everything I do just to stop talking about him because I can't talk about him anymore. At least as far as talking about his policies or playing sound bites from him, today we momentarily break our self-imposed moratorium on barachnophobia or abominations. See, it's like Romney's, get it? Remember the fun? That was so much fun. All those days don't go back. Yeah, it was great. But we have to help you make a case with your Obamamnoid friends. See, I did it again. It's like Romney.
Yeah, like Romney. Yeah,
like so good. The case is, how can you possibly believe anything that these people are saying? How can you possibly buy into this? I told you yesterday that I have a friend who wrote for General Hospital, was the one responsible for Love in the Afternoon. She was there. She was the head writer for all ABC soaps. She wrote the soap Bible for Love in the Afternoon. And remember, that's when Luke and Laura got married. I believe they were also trying to freeze the world. We went over the Benghazi story, and this is literally true. She said ABC would have never bought that. She said that story's impossible. They would have never bought this story. It's too implausible. And I reminded her, you're the one who wrote them trying to freeze the world. She said, yes, but it made sense on paper. So in our continuing effort to arm you, because you are the verb, to arm you with an argument on how can you possibly believe the stuff they're selling. Look at this Benghazi and Petraeus mess. How, after all that has happened with this, can anybody believe a word that they are saying? First, they told us that Benghazi was all about a pathetic, laughable YouTube video.
And that is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks. As a crude and disgusting video.
Okay.
Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
Okay, this was not just the day of or the next day, but in just not a casual mention, as he said there, for the last 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, he was blaming the schlocky 2-bit YouTube fiasco for what happened in Benghazi. And Jay Carney solidified the administration's position.
This is a fairly volatile situation, and it is in response not to United States policy, not to, obviously, the administration, not to the American people. It is in response to a video.
A video. Got it? A video. Then Obama was on The View. He said they were still investigating.
But then I heard Hillary Clinton say that it was an act of terrorism. Is it? What do you say?
Well, we're still doing an investigation.
Still doing an investigation. Isn't that incredible? So it went from absolutely a YouTube video, not to our policies, to we're still doing an investigation, even though reports were out. Even though the fact that we have cameras all around the world, we can see anybody do anything. We had 2 drones over Benghazi. Yet, have you seen a picture of it yet? Sending real-time video back to the White House to watch the attack live. Have you seen a single video of it yet? Have you seen one, America? Have you seen one? We had cameras there. There were cameras on that embassy. On that safe house, you know there were cameras there. Nobody had a cell phone. Nobody could send a picture back. We had 2 drones overhead sending real-time pictures, and yet they still have to investigate. You haven't seen a picture either. Then they finally decided that since YouTube protesters probably didn't show up at CIA safe houses with RPGs, machine guns, and with an organized, premeditated attack plan, they couldn't even get their lapdogs in the mainstream media to believe that fairy tale. So now, not only is it terror, but it is self-evident terror.
It is, I think, self-evident that what happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack. So our embassy was attacked violently, and the result was 4 deaths of American officials.
So it was self-evident terror. And not only is it self-evident that it was terrorism, but apparently they never said anything else.
Did you, and others mislead the public because you didn't want to admit there was a terror attack?
Absolutely not. The President of the United States referred to it as an act of terror immediately after it occurred.
Immediately?
1 second. So on September, if you're citing that on September 12th, the President called it terrorism. He used a phrase like act of terror.
Act of terror.
No act of terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're not
I never
saying
said that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism. There's an issue about the definition of terrorism. This is by definition an act of terror, as the president made clear.
Okay, stop. I can't. This is why we put a moratorium on these people. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And I can't do it anymore because I can't believe that our neighbors, that 50% of the people in our neighborhood cannot see the truth. And if they do see the truth, they don't stand up. They're not saying anything about it. So the president immediately said terror. Really? Yet 2 weeks later, he said...
That is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks.
Remember that?
There's a crude and disgusting video.
Got it. And Carney never said he didn't know that it was terrorism. No, he actually said something much, much worse. He said it was definitely something else.
This is a fairly volatile situation, and it is in response not to United States policy, not to, obviously, the administration, not to the American people. It is in response to a video.
Right. Now, after lie after lie after lie, more lies are put on top of it. More lies. Oh, but they didn't know. They had no idea this was going to turn into this. This was just another spontaneous event. Petraeus happened to happen on the day of the election, not a day before, not a week before. They knew nothing about it. The sex scandal with General Petraeus, man, it couldn't have come at a worse time. Now the media's got to talk about a sex scandal, and so we do not talk about what did the president know and when did he know it about Benghazi. Now we're having to ask the question, what did the president know and when did he know it about the sex scandal at Benghazi? The FBI knew about Petraeus, the affair, before he became CIA director. So they knew this while they vetted him for the job. This means that somebody didn't tell the President of the United States that he was putting into the most sensitive position of all time a guy who could be blackmailed, was having an affair. That is the most irresponsible thing I've ever heard. If the President didn't know, somebody should lose their job. They obviously knew. The President obviously knew. He had to know to make the decision to hire him. And yet your neighbors don't give a flying crap. They don't think this matters somehow. But wait. If you act now, even more lies.
How is it that the White House didn't have any idea of this until the day after the election and the Congress a few days later?
Well, I would refer you to the FBI. They have, as I understand it, protocols in place for when they notify the legislative and executive branches of investigations. And, you know, it is simply a fact that the White House was not aware of the situation regarding General Petraeus until Wednesday, and the situation regarding General Allen until Friday. So, you know, the FBI is the place to go in terms of an explanation of the protocols they follow. But I understand that is the answer that they will give, that there are protocols they follow that govern how they inform the various branches of government of these kinds of investigations.
Well, do you understand how people would think this is utterly bizarre? I mean, the day after the election and the anger you're hearing on Capitol Hill, they didn't know this was going on. It just, I mean, the timing, at least the appearance.
Look, all I can tell you is when the White House was informed.
Utterly bizarre. Because it's utterly impossible. And you know what? They've gotten away with it for 4 years. One after another, after another, after another. To the point to where you are turning out. You're tuning out. To the point where your neighbors are saying, I can't deal with it anymore. Whether we let them have free reign for 4 more unfettered years is really up to you. But look, before blood shoots from my eyes and I bleed to death, we've been over this 1 billion times. You know they have lied to you. You know they lie to you today. But we have to figure out a way to not preach to the choir. We have to figure out a way to tell the American people the truth and get it to anybody who's possibly willing to wake up, because this does matter to your security, to the security of your children, to your children's future and freedom. And by the way, while I'm at it, speaking of the non-choir, let me just say, thank you, non-choir. You've just given our permission to Barack Obama and his evil, nasty crew of liars to lie to our faces for another 4 years. To put our country, our freedoms, all of our hard-earned money, our businesses, our future, Israel, freedom, all at stake, so we could be more comfortable with lies and deceit and deception, coming our way every day like a warm blanket to tuck us in. Congratulations to the 62 million Americans who made the worst choice in the history of our planet, the history of our republic. The problem is, our problem was we thought more people were awake, but they are putting more people asleep. We thought more people were as awake as we are, but 11% fewer people came out to vote for Obama, but unbelievably 2% fewer showed up for Romney and John McCain. I can't believe it. We need you. We're battered and bloodied. And so many of us say we can't do it anymore. Let us behave like people determined to be free. We may be down, but we're not out. You help spread the message to the 2% that didn't show up, and another 10% or 20% beyond that. When a good man like Romney loses to a cast of really shady characters, whether you agree with all of his policies or not, when we knowingly choose liars, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. But the good news is the Constitution is the answer, and the Constitution survives.